Welcome to another edition of the MMA Complex. My name is James.
And my name is Josh.
We're coming off a very stacked, very exciting weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. Friday night, RFA came to town for RFA38 that was held at the Hangar in Costa Mesa, California. Josh and I were there in attendance. We're going to recap all the action for you for that night. And obviously on Saturday night, the UFC came to town for UFC 199, Bisping versus Luke Rockhold for the middleweight championship. Josh and I were there. We're going to recap all the action from Inglewood, California at the Forum. And we also have post-fight media scrums with the flyweight champion, the UFC flyweight champion, DJ Demetrius Johnson, Brian Ortega, and Benio Demarouche. And we also have a post-fight media scrum with the RFA champ, Thiago Morris. But first, Josh, we survived a very exciting weekend, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It was a very interesting weekend. RFA, Friday night, UFC 199 Saturday night. 199 is a very interesting story. We'll get to that soon. But first, we would like to thank Hollow Rock Gear. They're the sponsor of the show. Go to hollowrockgear.com. There's a link in the description of the video below. Use the promo code COMPLEX15 to get 15% off your order. And they have some fantastic gear from athletic workout gear to casual, just everyday clothing. And they have some of the best around, man. And they have they have a lot of gear, workout gear in itself that you can purchase. And make sure you use that promo code COMPLEX15 and get 15% off your order. And trust me, you won't be disappointed. Check them out. They revamped their whole look, and it's really something special right now. So go to Hollow Rock Gear.
All right,
man. So yeah, 199 is just concluded. That was a big event over the weekend. There's a lot of stuff that came out from that night. I mean, good and bad, exciting and sad. I mean, it was a night to remember for sure. We're gonna get to that first. So right off the bat, because that was just such a momentous occasion and a big event that really changed a lot of futures for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. UFC 199 was Rockhold Bisping. The card was fantastic. I think from top to bottom, it looked good going in on paper, and I think it pretty much met those expectations. In a lot of ways, surprised a lot of people. I mean, just to touch on the prelims card, we have one of the scrums we're going to show you tonight. You had Brian Ortega defeating Clay Guida by flying knee, which was a fantastic fight right there. That was a main event for the Fox Sports card before heading into the pay-per-view. But so I mean, what did you think about the card overall? What did you think? You were there.
Yeah, it was a fantastic card. You know, one of the main things I love about the sport is that it doesn't take favor to either the underdogs or the people that are considered to be winners, and this card had all the underdogs, winning. Brian Ortega, someone who looked up to Clay Guida. I think as a kid, he was a big fan of Clay Guida, and as a child, I think he asked for an autograph for Clay Guida, and I think when he made his UFC debut, the only person he asked for a picture was Clay Guida. So I think Brian Ortega, mentioned that before they asked the fighters if they're ready to fight in round number 1, that he couldn't believe that he was about to fight his hero, which was pretty crazy in itself. And knowing what Ortega was going through before that fight, I think he lost a dear friend of his, and I think he drowned also in a surfing accident. So, and the way the fight played out was fantastic finish. Good win by Brian Ortega, man.
Yeah. The card was good all around from top to bottom. You had Alex Caceres beating Cole Miller. You had Jessica Andrade beating Jessica Penne. You had Benil Dariush, who will also bring a scrum of that who beat James Vick. A lot of finishes, a few decisions. But to kick off the main card, you had Dustin Poirier defeating Bobby Green by knockout punches, which was a fantastic way to start off the night right there. What did you think about that fight? That was pretty good. Really good performance by Dustin Poirier, and finished off Bobby Green, man.
Yeah, this is an exciting fight. Both guys had a big rivalry with each other. There was some heated moments between the two at the weigh-ins at the press conference, and you know, those two guys came in banging, swinging punches, and you know, Dustin Poirier, you know, showed his dominance. You know, Bobby Green was coming off a loss coming to this fight, and now he's dropped 2 in a row. Poirier has looked fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, since his weight moved to 155, I think 155 is his ideal weight class, and I think he can make a lot of noise in the 155-pound stack division.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's looking better and better. I think he's coming into his own. After the McGregor fight, I think a lot of guys would have just faded off into obscurity, and you wouldn't really have heard from Dustin Poirier. I think we would have seen him fade away, but he's obviously shown his toughness and his true grit, and the guys come back looking better and better each fight. He's looking more and more comfortable, looking more like a veteran each and every fight, and beating guys like Bobby Green, who would intimidate most guys and make it a tough fight for most guys. But a guy like Dustin Poirier, he just seems like he has that confidence, and you really expect him to go in there and to just handle business and take a guy out like Bobby Green and showcase that he belongs at the top for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. And then another fight that, I mean, we didn't. I think we didn't pick it like this, but there's a few of them that. How did we do on the fight picks? I think we were like back and forth here and there. We're okay.
I mean, Josh is always better than me with picking fights. I think
we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think yeah.
For the most part.
But before we get to the next fight, I just want to highlight the Jessica Penne fight only because she got dominated by Andrade, and it was a repeat of the Joanna fight with Jessica Penne, and I don't know where she goes from here. I think she's a better coach than she is a fighter, but I don't know. It's kind of sad to see her go out that way.
I mean, she's not that old. I know she. What sucked too is that she just had her nose reconstructed too, and was looking really good, and it got busted up again. But not as bad. I don't think it was as bad of bloodied as the Joanna fight. But it was a dominating performance by Andrade, and
and
sucks.
And Andrade that win. At least she's coming off a loss against Raquel Pennington was the last person she fought, so it was a good one for her.
Yeah, and then also with the loss of Jessica Penne, it kind of that winning streak of Alliance MMA was
right.
like,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that was like there was a long streak of wins by Alliance MMA, and I mean, one out of I don't know how many, like 7 of the last, like in the last month or so from Alliance, big names. All the big names were like fighting in the last month or two, all picking up wins, and I think Jessica Penne might have been one of the first big names out of that gym to have a loss. But it's not a bad streak for Alliance, and then they ended up coming back and getting a win with Dominic Cruz, so they're still looking good, still like one of the best gyms around there. I think one of the best emerging gyms. Just adding talent all the time. I think they just added Kat Zingano into their fold, so they're looking good, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bad night for Jessica Penne right there too. But I think with the Dan Henderson fight and Hector Lombard, that was interesting. This is the way it ended, and the fact that Hendo in his mid-40s is still going strong.
Yeah, this is a crazy fight. I mean, the first round, Hector Lombard showed how strong of a grappler he is. He took Dan Henderson down and was really strong on top.
Yeah,
and it was crazy because I think around this fight, backstage at the media room, we were doing media scrums for Jacare. So I was looking at the fight and then kind of doing the scrum at the same time, and then out of nowhere, man, Dan Henderson knocked out Hector Lombard pretty bad. Even Jacare kind of stood up and was screaming in a positive way towards Henderson. Henderson, man, I'm guilty of it. I mean, I didn't think they'd be able to knock out Lombard, but he still has power in that left hand, man. I'm afraid that with this win, it's like he'll give himself a false sense of security as far as that that he still has it in him to compete. I wish that he could just walk away and leave on a good note, but who knows? But it was
he might.
But what a powerful knockout by Dan Henderson.
Yeah, he might. I mean, remember at the end of his post fight, he was talking about this might be the last one. And
Hopefully,
it's not a bad one to go on.
Yeah.
I mean, and then looking after the first round, it didn't look good for him after the first round.
I thought he was gonna get knocked out.
Yeah, I thought he might get knocked out. I thought it might be a bad night for him. It wasn't looking too good, and then he pulls out the win. Is it a confidence booster on his part to say like, oh, I still have it, and I can do it and compete with the best of the best? I don't know. I mean, it was kind of
I want to say a lucky punch, but he punched him at the right time.
Yeah, it was at the right time, and it was just like it was such a weird move where he just goes and his Lombard's holding his leg and just goes with the back elbow right to the temple. So I mean, it was a weird move, but it got him the win, and if he decides to go on, why not? I'm not gonna we're not wanting to tell him to hang it up. He's still obviously winning fights. He's like 2 or 3 in a row already. So, but if he wanted to call it quits, it's not a bad one to go on. It's a good win over a really tough opponent, a top contender, and hey, you were still competing at the top at the end of your days in your 40s, So, but it's crazy. It was a crazy finish right there.
Yeah, it was scary too, man, because it took a long time for Hector to get up. So. Thank God he's okay, and we'll see what happens with Dan Harrison in the future.
Yeah, and I don't know what happens with Hector Lombard from here on. I think they're going to keep him because he's such a big name.
It's just crazy because he was a guy that was a middleweight champion I believe in Bellator, right? Mm-hmm. And he comes to the UFC and he looks like a mid-carder, but who knows what's going to happen with both guys, but I wish both of them nothing but the best.
I don't know if he can make 170 again. Do you think? I don't know. I think he would do better at 170. You think the 185 guys are too big for him?
I think so. I think 170 is good, but I know he's a hard time cutting weight, especially with muscle. Especially with the IV van, and then especially with him cutting all that weight and
being a big guy
and his age too.
Oh yeah, he's up there.
He's up there in age. So like when you get to the late 30s, it's hard for you to lose the weight.
Yeah, and then you have Max Holloway, Ricardo Lamas, which is what a war that was. That was a dominant performance by Max Holloway in a way, in my opinion. He controlled the fight the entire time, and at the end he controlled it so much that at the end he was just like, let's just go for broke, and I'll just wing punches, where he told Lamas to stand in the middle and trade punches. That was such a crazy fight.
No, it was. Lamas coming off that exciting victory over Diego Sanchez over at the finale. What a fight this was, man. I mean, it was it wasn't a back and forth throw. I mean, Max Holloway showed his dominance and showed the people why he should be next in line after Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo fight for the 145-pound title. Max Holloway, it was crazy, man. I think one of my favorite moments in MMA was him pointing to the ground and biting his mouthpiece, and then those guys going for broke, and it was, man.
He looks so good.
Everybody in the room, in that media room, was like on their feet.
Yeah.
I think at the press conference, Max Holloway wants that event in Hawaii. So hashtag UFC Hawaii, and they didn't know to bring that fight to Hawaii. But I truly believe that after Edgar and Aldo getting in there, I think he should be the next in line for the title shot.
I think so too. When you have McGregor and Diaz, which that broke on that night, they're fighting in August, and then you have Edgar and Aldo in July, in early July. Max Holloway's the perfect opponent to be next in line. I think so. I think it'd be wrong to deny him now, going 8-9 in a row or something like that, over top contenders and looking amazing. Just the way he would throw his strikes and then kind of cut angles. And he just looked like such a pro out there, and he looked really dangerous. He looked like tough, man, tough to handle for anybody. On the feet, I think he's a hard fight for anybody. On the ground, I could see a guy like maybe Edgar frustrating him, but aside from that, I mean, he's a tough guy for anybody. He's a big guy too.
Yeah, but the one thing that we have to consider at 145 is obviously the champion Conor McGregor. He's holding up that division, having other fights out of his weight class that leaves.
Well, he won't be the champ anymore, though.
What's that?
He won't be the champ. Would he be the champ still? Because they're fighting for the vacant, no?
No, they're gonna fight for the interim belt.
The interim belt?
Yeah, still.
Okay.
So he's sold the 145-pound champ. I don't think he's ever gonna go back to 145. I think he just wants that belt to say he's a 2 division champion if he challenges anybody else in the higher weight class. But I feel bad for those guys because all those guys are fighting for that top spot, but they have to wait till Conor McGregor defends that bout, and who knows when that's gonna happen.
Who knows when that's gonna happen? Maybe he'll fight. Maybe Holloway will fight for the interim before he actually fights for the real belt, most likely.
Yeah.
And then Dominic Cruz, rubber matching with Uriah Faber, going all 3 rounds and showcasing why he's the champ. I mean, who's the real fighter. I guess the best out of the two. And he put on another great performance, dominant performance, all 5 rounds. And Faber really didn't have anything for him. And another guy that kind of talked like he could be heading towards the end of his career too.
Yeah, Dominic Cruz, man, I think showed his most dominant performance in the UFC today. It's crazy that he was out for 2-3 years, and the way he looks now, he looks better than ever. His movement, he made Uriah Faber miss a lot, and he showed power in his hands. He dropped Faber, I think twice, and he showed his dominance, man. It's unfortunate this fight happened this late in 2016. I think it would have been a closer fight if it happened back in 2011, 2012, because Faber is up there in age. Not taking anything away from Dominic Cruz, I'm just saying it probably would have been a closer fight if Uriah Faber was younger. But it's sad, Uriah Faber coming off that win over Frankie Saenz, no relation to Josh Saenz.
I'm not related.
But
as far as I know, I'm not.
Yeah, but he looked good against Frankie. Well, not even good. Like, it was a close fight against Frankie Saenz, and here he comes challenging yet again for a UFC belt, and he comes to short again. I mean, Uriah Faber is always gonna be that guy that can beat anybody but the champ, and I think this closes the rivalry between those two guys, and I don't think we'll ever see Faber challenge again for a title. I think this is the end of his career, and he gave slight hints in the press conference that this could be it. But one guy that we should be looking at is Conor Gambart, and I think he's going to be next in line for Dominic Cruz, and that'll be a very interesting fight in the 135-pound division.
Most likely, I think that'll be next in line. Did Cruz say who he would prefer next, or I don't know if he?
No, he didn't. A lot of people are speculating that it's going to be him and Brian Caraway next. I think it's a bad fight.
I think Caraway was saying that he would rather fight for the title than face Cody.
I think
he doesn't seem about a reason to fight Cody.
I think Cody will knock him out. I think Cody will knock out Brian Caraway. But I think if Caraway challenges Cruz would have his way with him as well.
I think Cruz would have his way with any of them, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have to watch out for the power with Cody, but aside from that, I think he'll outclass Cody.
Yeah, I think his movement is gonna be a factor of that fight. I think as long as Dominic Cruz avoids that power shot, he can dominate that fight.
Yeah, I think so too. But another fight that really surprised me in the night, not just from Dan Henderson beating Hector Lombard by knockout, but the fact that Michael Bisping is now the new middleweight champion. That's crazy, man. I mean, and good for Michael being in there for so long, and his post-fight backstage interview with Megan O'Leary, which I thought was great. It was a fantastic interview. I haven't caught that. Look it up. It's probably on their YouTube channel or something like that. And make sure you subscribe to this one. But Michael Bisping is a new middleweight champion. Knocked out Luke Rockhold in the first round. And Rockhold has said he underestimated him. He didn't think he had anything for him, and he paid for it. And he caught a hook, left hook to the chin, and just couldn't recover. And it was over and done with right away.
Yeah, what a crazy fight that was. I mean, talk about a Cinderella story in MMA, UFC.
Yeah.
Here, Michael Bisping, a guy that's been in the UFC for 10 years, who never got a title shot. It was always one fight away from a title shot.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity to fight for a title against Chael Sonnen. He lost that. Obviously, Chael Sonnen went on to fight Anderson for the second time and lost. And having Michael Bisping be in the situation that he was kind of crazy too, because Chris Weidman obviously couldn't compete because of a neck injury. Jacare couldn't take the fight because of his knee. So by chance, Michael Bisping, took that fight, took 2 week notice. Really embraced the opportunity, and there was a heated rivalry before the fight, and a much more heated rivalry after the fight. But the fact that Michael Bisping knocked him out, and pretty much he did what Conor McGregor did, was predict the outcome of the fight, and it was a sweet victory for Michael Bisping. To see him with that belt around his waist is kind of surreal, only because he's been in the UFC for 10 years, and he becomes UK's first UFC champion, so good for him. At the press conference, there was heated words, and after the press conference, those 2 guys had to be separated. So we might see a 3rd fight between those guys. I think footage from the conference, post-fight conference, would be used, and wow, I mean, Luke Rockhold was a guy that didn't show any respect. He obviously was throwing things that he normally doesn't throw in a fight. He had his chin up, and Michael Bisping took advantage of it, and now he's the new UFC middleweight champion.
Yeah. And I can see them making that fight again, maybe a 3rd time, right away. You also have Chris Weidman and Jacare in the mix too, so I don't think either one of them are going to be out for too long. So they could do Bisping, Jacare, they could do Rockhold, Weidman, or they could do Rockhold and Bisping again, and then do Jacare and Weidman on the same card, maybe. Who knows? You have a good mix there, and with Bisping at the champ, as a champ, it makes it pretty interesting, and it's interesting to see the fact that the middleweight title is another title that's been like a hot potato, much like the heavyweight title.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a dominant guy that's just solidified his position, so it'll be interesting to see who actually is able to do that.
Yeah, I think the UFC is gonna book Weidman and Bisping only because it'll be New York. I think
Weidman and Bisping.
Yeah, I think
MSG.
Yeah, I think the MSG with Weidman, being an East Coast guy, fighting for a title would be humongous. But there's a lot of options there in the middleweight division, and like Conor says, whenever there's options, it's a good thing. So it makes that division a lot more interesting having Michael Bisping as champion.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to talk about our day that day, and why? Maybe I don't know if you guys can tell, we have a little bit of a sunburn. We won't get into too much detail, but we were lucky enough to get credentialed. We were able to speak to Dana White and at RFA, which he was there filming, fighting,
looking for a fight.
So we were able to speak to him backstage. I've had dealings with him in the past, just being a former intern there in the way back, and he was saying that just contact Schaller, and we tried to get into the UFC, and if anybody's in the media who's been trying to get into UFC would know that they're very picky in terms of who they let in. They obviously want some credible media outlets there, and
not saying that we're not credible.
Not saying that we're not credible, but we're not
that established.
We're not USA Today or or MMA Fighting or Fox Sports or anything like that. So we were lucky enough to be given an opportunity. Although once we got there were some complications in terms of the credentials. So one of us was only able to get in, and what did? We flipped a coin for it.
And to be as fair as possible. Well,
it's a democracy in this thing right here. So we got to do what we can.
Yeah, but before the coin toss, Josh and I were waiting around outside waiting for a confirmation.
Yes.
With the PR people. So, I mean, those of you guys who live in LA know how scorching hot it was that Saturday afternoon. So Josh and I were in the sun all day for about 2 hours.
Yeah, you had the fan fest. I think even more than 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. We got there at 1, and we didn't hear anything back to like almost 5. Yeah.
So dealing with the PR and trying to get a hold of people while the event was starting off, and it was last minute. We previously applied for the stuff, but it wasn't granted, and understandably so. But they had the fan fest going on, so they had that entertain us. But while things were going on, so it was scorching hot. The sun was out and shining, and it was
very few shade as well.
Yeah, so after a while, you got a little tan here, a little burn, but it was an interesting day, man. And obviously we had to we flipped the coin for it just so that nobody.
A cop would. Yeah, let a cop do it so we could be as fair as it can be.
We asked a police officer that was there, and he's like, "Oh my God, man, I wish I could help you guys, but I can't." But he's like, "Sure." He was cool about it, man. An LAPD officer that was really nice, man. So he flipped the coin for us. James got the toss. So that's it. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. And thank you to Dave Schaller and Chelsea at PR. I mean, they're great in granting us that at that sort of that permission to go and to cover 199. At least one of us. And I think just because of short notice and was we're not the biggest outlet at all. I wouldn't even say it was a privilege, and hopefully we get to do it again. Hopefully we get to have, I know we talked to Schaller, and hopefully we get him on the show again. But James was able to get in there, and I was out doing what I could on the outside, and he was holding the fort down in the arena, hanging out with all the media members in the room, and getting what we're going to bring to you soon, which is the scrums. So talk about your experience there. A little bit.
Well, first of all, I mean, I want to make it clear that that Josh is like my brother, and being him not being there with me, the experience that hurt my heart. I mean, I felt horrible even though I won the toss. It's not like I was celebrating because I won. I mean, I hated going in there without him, man. I love this guy, and to not be able to share an experience like that with Josh hurt my heart. I felt bad the whole night. I wish he was there with me, but like Josh said, it was good for the show. Yeah, it was better for the show. But I just wish he was there with me. Yeah. But I mean, it was crazy being escorted to the media room. So just imagine like a newsroom, but with just tables and food. I was hungry, but I didn't want to eat because I don't want to. I walked in there not feeling legit compared to the people at Fox and ESPN and all those guys that were there. So I just did what I did. I mean, I didn't want to eat and look ghetto. So I was doing play-by-play, man. And by this time, I think I walked in during the Jessica Pinay fight. So everybody had their camera set up. I couldn't set up our camera, so thankfully we have a relationship with Eric Hawani. So he took his time, and he pretty much let me take his spot. So I was really grateful for Eric Hawani letting me do that. But yeah, the experience is cool, man. Just being there backstage and seeing all the media guys and seeing all the scrums happen right then and there was I mean, saying it's a dream come true is a huge understatement. So again, I want to thank Chelsea and Dave for credentialing us, man, and I hope it happens again sooner rather than later. Yeah,
and it was a bucket list for us, even though I wasn't in attendance. The fact that the show was credentialed for a UFC event. And then we got UFC, we have RFA, we have Bellator, World Series, Invicta,
all that under a year, by the way.
EBI, you name it, we've been able to do it. And right? More, and we're gonna do more. We're gonna do. I think we have a Bama event hopefully coming up this weekend. It'll be a Bama 10. That's on Friday night here in California. We're hopefully gonna cover King of the Cage soon. That's a LA, California promotion here. So we're not done yet, but it was definitely a bucket list to
be conditioned by the UFC.
To get the UFC on our list right there, on our resume right there.
Yeah, because even on my badge, this is seeing my name and the MMA Complex was great. And the fact that we did this under 10 months with no backing of any sort, Josh and I did it on our own money. So to see our little show be in the UFC with less than a year doing this is pretty surreal, and I feel like a parent, and I was really proud, heartbroken that my brother, my brother wasn't there to do this with me. But I mean, hopefully next time you'll be there.
Yeah, hopefully next time. So hopefully soon. But it was a great night. It was a very interesting day for sure. But right now we're gonna play you the media scrums that James was able to get from with Demetrius Johnson, Brian Ortega, Benil Dariush, and just enjoy.
You told me on media day that you needed a Clay Guida in your life. Now that you got the victory over him, how do you feel about it?
I feel good. this is someone who I looked up to as a kid, wanting to go into UFC. I always looked up to him. A few guys that I actually say I looked up to and admired, you know. And it's just something that, as a kid, you know, when you're a kid, you just say, man, one day, you know, I'm going to be with these guys. I'm going to fight like these guys. And I actually got to fight this guy, and it was great. You know, it was a great moment for me, and I got a little emotional with him after. You know, I told him everything. I looked up to him my whole life, and it was just good. It was a good outcome for me.
What was going through your mind when you actually were standing across the octagon from him? Oftentimes when people fight somebody they admire, they're hesitant, they're panicked, it feels different than what they expected. What were you thinking?
I was like, dude, that's him. I was like, you know, when my first UFC debut, I didn't take a picture with any pro besides him. I was like a fan kid, you know. I told my coach, I look, it's great, man. Like, let's get a shot. And I even put it up on my Instagram a long time ago, my first debut. And then to actually fight him now, you know, it's crazy. And I think he actually told me that day, he was like, you're a 45er? He goes, man, I'm gonna have to fight big boys like you. And then now we're fighting, now we fought, so it was like, it's crazy how it came out.
And did you win it that way? Is that how you thought you would beat him?
No, I thought I was gonna submit him. I honestly thought he was gonna shoot in. I was gonna be on my guard, you know, off my back, shooting some triangles, arm bars, and then eventually him slipping up and me catching a submission. But he stood in bang with me, so we did the same.
As a child growing up and looking up to him, what was it that you know, attracted you to his fighting?
It was his energy, you know. He never had a boring fight, you know. A lot of people say he did, but this guy is he's jumping around, the hairs everywhere, he's throwing punches, he's wrestling, he's hitting you, standing back up. It's just his demeanor, you know. It's just he's a wild guy, he's like a Tarzan, you know. So, and I was like a crazy little Tarzan kid growing up, so it was perfect.
Do you feel like this is the most significant win in your UFC career to date?
I feel it is, you know. I feel like he's a veteran, he's an accomplished veteran. He's fought the best of the best. He fought two, you know, Rafael dos Anjos, Anthony Pettis. He has wins over Nate Diaz. So just to share a fight with him was an honor for me, you know, and for me that's my biggest victory.
You also knew going into this fight you'd have a lot of support from your fans. Did you feel it out there? What was the walkout like for you?
You know what? I was getting a little worried. I was like, wait, this guy has a lot of fans here too. Because he walked out first and the crowd went wild, and I was like, it's not supposed to happen, you know. This LA is my scene, you know. And then when I walked out, the whole place just blew up, and I was like, all right, there we go. I feel good about this now.
How did you feel about the new weigh-in yesterday? Did you like it?
The new weigh-in is amazing. Like, literally, I cut weight for a little bit, like on Thursday night. I actually posted a video eating steak and potatoes because I wasn't worried about it. And then I woke up in the morning at 1:47. At 9:30, we weigh in at 10, right? The earliest. So I went to jacuzzi for like 15 minutes, came out, did the weight, 145. So it was amazing, and I got to eat for like almost like a day and a half.
Do you feel like it helped your performance today, getting to weigh in officially and rehydrate earlier?
Yes, I feel like this is something that we should actually do a lot more often if all the commissions come together and make it possible, because this as a fighter, this is something that made me perform better. It made me feel a lot better. You know, usually the next day, I feel my stomach feels a little bit different, right? From even I only cut 10 pounds, but still, you know, a cut is a cut, and I feel it just doesn't make you feel you know. You're just fighting off of adrenaline and just the crowd. But this time I felt like I was myself.
What did you think about taking part in the weigh-in, but as a rehydrated fighter? Like, did you enjoy it more than you usually do? The actual like face-off, when the whole thing.
Oh man, the face-off was great, man. It went bananas.
Yeah. he did his whole. Did you notice that he did his whole routine?
He did his whole routine. I was in the back, and I was like, dude, we already made weight, you know. Like, he was like looking at the scale, jumping up, like if he was worried, I was like, all right, you know, I guess we gotta put out a show though, you know. Sure. And I was like, this guy's mad dogging this scale right now, you know. He went there with the bananas. I was like, all right, cool. I took one banana, ate it, gave me more fuel for the night.
And what was it like the night before your fight to find out that Muhammad Ali passed away? Did that have an impact on you?
You know what? I was talking to Kevin Casey. Yep. And we trained together, you know, with the Gracie Academy and everything. So I already knew news before anything hit, before anything went up publicly. So I just told him, I said I lost my grandfather before my fight, my debut, and I told Kevin, you you got to tough it out, bro. This is what we do. I've had a rough year myself, but it's something sad, I got his posters all over the garage where I train at. I even put a nice little BBS logo on his shorts, but rest in peace to the greatest.
Did it do something for you mentally? I mean, you're about to fight and you find out. It's a very emotional time, I'm sure, for fighters in particular, someone of that stature passing away. Did you feel like it impacted you going into this?
You know what? Not really, just because in my lifetime, man, I've seen a lot of things. This year's been a crazy year, especially with death around me,
Right.
And for me, coming up, this is just something I always deal with on a regular basis. That's why I kind of broke down a bit too, just because it's just been a crazy year so far, man. And but we're still here. That's why we're fighters. We just keep pushing on.
Do you mind sharing what happened this year?
One of my I lost one of my buddies in January, and then February I drowned and almost lost my life. And then the next month someone died in front of me, and I was trying to bring him back to life. So it's just been crazy, with a lot of things I've been dealing with. So tonight a lot of pressure just got relieved on my shoulders.
Are you the type of guy then that works out that pressure in the gym, or are you the type that now is going to take a break?
No, I always said it, man. Training is my fantasy land. It's the way I can escape reality. Because I'm not the only person. Everyone goes through things, and everyone has outlets to escape what happens in their life. And mine is just training. I train all my frustrations away. I train all my problems away. When I can't train, I surf, and even though I drowned, it's still, I'll never stop surfing.
What was it like the first time getting back up on the board, after that accident?
I was actually with my friend Alan Boy, and he tore his hamstring, and I drowned. So he caught a wave, and he was like, "Oh my God!" He just felt, to be back at it again. And then I caught a wave, and then we're both looking at each other like big kids, like, "Oh my God, dude, we're back at it just." To face your fear, it felt good.
Actually, it's something that you could probably use in a fight. I mean, when you get in a tough position, you know you have it in you to pull through. It's valuable.
Well, I'm always scared every fight. I don't care what fighters say. They look at us like tough guys and everything. I'm afraid of fighting. Every time I step in here, I face a new fear. I face a new type of pressure, new type of obstacles. And it's almost like a drug to me, because you don't want to do things you're afraid of, but you just got to do it, just to say, you know what, I did it. Whatever happens, at least I did it.
We didn't get to see Kevin because he went to the hospital, I think. What was he like? Did you get a chance to talk to him yesterday?
I talked to him yesterday. I talked to him right before he fought.
Okay.
I just told him go out there and get it. I was hoping he came back to the locker room, but I guess he was way too dehydrated.
Yeah.
So they sent him to the hospital, and I talked to his brother in his corners, and they just say he's all right. They just got to go put an IV on him and just get him back to normal.
Congrats.
Hey, listen, the other day you told me in our pre-fight interview, you said you wouldn't know what went wrong against Chiesa until you got in there tonight. So now have you figured it out, and if so, what was it?
Spirit, fighting spirit. I felt like the difference was focus, but it was also the fighting spirit, just wanting to be there. I think I was lacking that, and thank God it's back.
Is that because, you were on a hot streak there with the 5-fight win streak? Were you just getting complacent and used to winning, and the loss shook it up?
I really don't know, there's a lot of things going on. I had a gym coming, but this is not an excuse. That night Chiesa was the better man. He came in with more focus. I think you could see it. After the first round, he came out stronger than I did. That just tells you that he had more fighting spirit. And sometimes your technique can be there, your intelligence is there, your movement is correct, but when you start losing that spirit, things start going the wrong way. It wasn't a fatigue issue with Chiesa. I just think he had a more fighting spirit, and this time I was redeemed. I came with the fighting spirit.
Nice. Well, Vic is obviously such a lanky guy. Did that give you any issues when you were in there with him?
I'm getting all these lanky
I know,
guys.
Michael. Yes.
I had Michael, and now James. Honestly, the goal was to close the distance, so it was kind of tricky with him. I was making sure to use the body kicks to keep him from going to my left, his right, and then when he moved to his right, making sure I stepped there first, so I can cut him off with the overhand. I can hit him hard, but at the same time, it's still so difficult with a guy like that. He took so many good shots, and he just kept coming back. I was expecting a second round. I really was. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it looked like you were very close to finishing. So, was there any sense at all that you obviously didn't feel him break then, right? Because he kept staying in the game.
No, he got back up, and he got back up with vengeance. He needed me in the body. He was looking for things. I was thinking to myself, if I stay in the clinch with him, it's just not going to end the way I want it to end. We're going to go to the second round. I was expecting the second round just because, but I figured let me try to hurt him again. So I pulled out of the clinch and looked for one more left hand. And that was the one that finished it.
You guys got scolded a bit for the eye pokes. Can you talk us through that? How did that feel? How bad were they? And, did you think that was appropriate that you were both getting scolded for that?
The first one, he got me pretty good, and then the second one, he kind of just rubbed the inside of my eye. The second one wasn't as bad, I'll be honest, but I was kind of scared from the first one. So I kind of have to see them again, to be honest. I was trying to look up at the big screen. I didn't get a good look. The first one really bothered me. The second one kind of had me wincing, but I didn't even realize I poked him in the eye. So yeah, it's an accident. I'm sure it was an accident on his part too.
So, Benil, who would you like next then? Obviously, you got over that speed bump on the loss to Chiesa, and that was a quick turnaround for you. How quickly could you go again, and is there a name you want?
At this point, I really don't know. For this last fight, what I did was I went home and I prayed to see what would be next for me. I'm going to do the same again, and whatever's there, I'll take it.
El Kukui is taking on Chiesa next. How do you think that fight's going to go?
It'll be an interesting fight, just because we've seen El Kukui struggle with Danny Castillo because of the takedowns. So, and Chiesa has good takedowns, and that could make it an interesting fight. But I think he has a big advantage in the stand-up. So, if you're thinking about predictions, I don't know.
But RDA is going to win this fight.
Oh man, RDA. You know what's funny? We did like a light sparring on this Monday, and I had a black eye from him. It just went away maybe yesterday or this morning. So I'm going with RDA against anybody at this point.
Kelvin Gastelum was in here a little while ago, and he said that the two of you put in a lot of work together over at King. So what do you make of Kelvin these days? And he really seems to be on this path of, I don't want to say reinvention, but really growing into a full, well-rounded fighter.
I think Kelvin's awesome. One of the things I've noticed about Kelvin is he's constantly improving. He can learn from anybody. He's not one of those guys where he's like, I have to make sure this guy's teaching me, or I have to make sure I go to this guy. He comes, if we're able to do something to him, he wants to learn it. And I think his striking is moving up pretty quick. His hands are so fast. It's really impressive to see a guy who moves his hands that fast. And I'm excited to get back in the gym to help him get ready for his fight, help Hoffa get ready for their fights, especially Kelvin, because he's fighting the southpaw. But I'll do my best for Hoffa. And we have Enrique too. He's fighting Sage Northcutt. We have Arthur, a friend of mine from King's Fight. So we have a lot of guys. I have to get back in the gym on Monday.
But was part of the way in which you got over Chiesa was agreeing to a fight on short notice to just get back into the camp and hope to erase that memory, since it wasn't that long ago, less than 2 months ago.
Like I said earlier, I went back and I prayed, and it just felt like the right thing to do is take a fight right away. And I told my manager Ali, I told Master Rafael Cordero, and they both said, "Yep, let's do it. We need a fight right away." And maybe a week later, I had a fight. So that was what was behind it. And of course, that terrible feeling from a loss. I don't want that. So it was nice getting rid of that. But it never really goes away because we made that mistake.
Was the feeling even worse because it was a submission?
It was. It really was, to be honest, because I did something a white belt in jiu-jitsu does. I gave my back and I let him get up there. I just assumed I was going to be able to escape from whatever he tries to do. And I gave him my back and he submitted me and it was horrible.
Have you watched it?
Multiple times.
Is it tough?
It doesn't get easier. I'm still waiting for the day it gets easier.
And just curious, last night obviously Muhammad Ali passed away, and I'm wondering, as a fighter who's about to compete 24 hours later, how do you internalize that? What was that like for you?
I was watching some of his interviews. They asked him, what do you want to do after boxing? And he has this great, amazing interview. He says, I want to get to heaven. I want to work my way up to heaven. So, you know, he talks about how much time you spend at work. He talks about how much you do this, you do that, and it takes up maybe 60 years of your life. So he says, what are you going to do with that 20 years? And he's like, and he says for him, for the next 16 years, my goal is to work so God sees me and I can go to heaven.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite interviews ever.
Did you feel emotional, inspired? You know, you're about to compete in front of the world. You're about to fight, which is, you know, what he did so well for so many years. I mean, just as a fighter doing that now in the evolution of fighting, did it give you an extra pep in your step, or was it just you taking that all in?
It was just seeing the interview. It just brought us kind of back. It makes the world kind of bigger again, because we make fighting our whole world. It surrounds us and it occupies everything we do. But he reminded me that this is just a short while. This isn't my life. This isn't a lifetime for me. I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 50. I'm maybe not even, you know, I may have 10 more years left. So it reminded me that this life is short, and I need to prioritize better.
Congrats. Oh, go ahead.
How was the, speaking of pep in the step, how was the new weight cutting, weigh-in procedures for you?
I like it. Weighing in at 10 a.m., it's great, because typically we weigh in at 4 o'clock, but we have to be on weight by 12 because we leave at 1. They have to do some medical things. It gets tricky. We don't want to be late for the weigh-ins, so it's cool. I hit 156 at 9:45. I weighed in at 10:15. 30 minutes of being dehydrated, done and over with, and I was back to hydrating myself. So I loved it.
Did it feel different today, the actual fight, or was it more about yesterday?
More about yesterday. I never feel the weight cut bothers me too much. I think I have a pretty good program as far as rehydrating.
Did most of the fighters seem to be weighing in as early as they could?
Everybody loves it. Every fighter. I haven't met a fighter that, I don't think I'm going to meet a fighter that says he doesn't like it. Maybe Gunnar Nelson, because he doesn't believe in cutting weight, but so far everybody.
But was everybody lining up at 10 o'clock?
Everybody was there at 10 a.m. Yeah, actually we had a line at 10 a.m. That's why I weighed in at 10:15, because there was a line.
What do you think of the weigh-in 6 hours later? Now you're obviously hydrated, but going through the whole routine.
So I'm going through the routine and thinking to myself, I'm actually enjoying this. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the face-off, so I loved it.
Do you hope that every state now adopts this?
I hope so. I've heard news that the UFC wants to do this, Dana wants to do this. I really hope so. It makes sense too. It's healthier for the guys. I understand it's important to make sure they're not cutting too much weight because of the health risks. So whatever procedures they have to do to maintain that, I'm with it. Let's do it. Whatever you guys got to do beforehand to examine us, let's do that. I'm ready for that.
Speaking of the weight, you know, you mentioned before that you don't think you would ever fight Rafael. So what happens, you know, if he keeps his title in July, and how much longer do you think he would be there where you guys would be on a path for each other, where you'd have to move?
So I didn't think this question was going to come up after the loss to Vic. I'm not Vic, but Chiesa. And honestly, it's one of those things. Once I'm there, if it's not working, if we have to fight each other, I'm going to 170. I don't even want to put that pressure on Hoffa. I have no problems fighting at 170. They're big boys, but I seem to get all the big boys anyway, so what does it matter?
Thank you.
To ask you about last night, the passing of Muhammad Ali, and how you received the news. How did it impact you?
It's very unfortunate, you know. I think it's very unfortunate when anybody passes in life. I think that's one of the things I missed out on when I was growing up. I was raised by a single mother, so I had never seen any of Muhammad Ali's fights. I've only seen highlights, so it wasn't somebody I grew up watching or basically I didn't see him as my idol because I didn't have that phase in my life. So it's very unfortunate he passed, and one of the greatest of all time, and will be missed.
As a champion, though, and now learning more about him and things that he had to go through that you don't necessarily have to go through, you know, the trail that he blazed for other fighters and champions. Can you appreciate the struggles that he went through? Do you have an appreciation for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously when he was a champion, it was a totally different time.
Yep.
To where, you know, I'm sure his ethnic, him being black and being such a high looked upon person, was probably hard for him to go through. With, you know, like I said, I didn't grow up seeing him what he had to go through, but obviously he's done an amazing job of being flashy, how he moved, and I never knew that the Conor McGregor all that money picture was from him. Never knew it till today. So obviously a lot of fighters have modeled their career after Muhammad Ali. So
did you hear about the new weigh-in?
Yeah,
here in California?
I did. I heard. You know, I talked to Luke Rockhold about it.
Yeah.
He said he felt amazing. He said he had to do with the being dehydrated at the weigh-ins and doing the Q&A and all that stuff. He said he felt great. So I heard it was good. You know, obviously I heard they might be doing it at UFC 200, and then I'm sure if it works good for UFC 200, they might do it for UFC 201. The only thing I didn't like is that I got an email saying you need to be 8% to your weight. I was like, not fucking happening, bro. I was like, I come in weighing 139 a fight week, and I was like, I've never missed weight, not once. I've never had a scare, so I will come in at weighing 138, 139.
Have you told them that?
No, I will though.
Do you think that will be an issue?
I don't think so. What are they gonna do?
Right.
Not let me fight. I was like, dude, you guys, I'm not a crack addict. It's not like I need to go to rehab for making weight. I was like, I've never had a problem, never been dehydrated. I was like, I'm taking a piss when I'm going to weigh in. I was like, I'm smart. I don't need education on how to make weight.
And just for the record, it's kind of two different things. Like the 8% thing is a UFC thing,
yeah,
and the early weigh-ins is a California thing. But I was actually told that Georgia is seriously considering doing it. Worth noting that Andy Foster, who's the head of the athletic commission here, came from Georgia.
Yeah.
So you're fighting in Georgia.
Yeah.
Would you be open to the 10 a.m. weigh-in as opposed to
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, that just means I'll be waking up, jumping in the tub at 8 o'clock instead of at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Because when I cut my weight, I don't cut my weight right when I wake up. I wake up, eat a little food, start playing video games, sit there and chill, and then we'll wake up and I'm like, okay, so you're losing about, a pound and a half an hour, so let's give yourself 3 hours, and just in case it slows down, I jump in the tub, I start cutting my weight. Once I make weight, I get up, jump into the bed, and just sit there and chill to weigh in. So that's how it goes for me.
Henry Cejudo was pretty humble about his fight with you.
Going up.
What do you think of that? How satisfying was it to get a win over him?
That was good. Things escalated real quick in the fight, but it was good. A lot of people believe it was going to be my toughest challenge, and being the guy who's undefeated and finishing a guy who's undefeated, who's never tasted defeat, or being, finished at all, it feels good. One of my coach was saying, like, dude, it doesn't matter how long, he hasn't been in this sport long enough to go through like that. There's been times I'm in a fight and I've been hit to the stomach, and I'm like, you guys would never realize when it happened, but I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, correct yourself, let's keep on fighting. But obviously, I hit him in the liver and I felt him wince, and then I saw him not protecting his chin, so I was like, okay, perfect, we'll go right, and I'm gonna switch it up and go left to the head, and it worked out perfect.
And was the finish more satisfying than just a win?
Oh yeah, especially, I tell you this, like, when you're, you go through all these fights and you go through different places around the world, and you have their fans, you have Cejudo's fans, you have my fans, and then you have some of the fans that are like, and new, and blah blah blah. When your coaches and your family's doing it, when you're walking into Las Vegas, it's like, and new, so who don't know? I was like, 2 days. So that felt good, just to show them, like, dude, it's like, I'm not a big talker. I train my ass off in the gym, and when we get in the octagon, I'm a totally different person. So.
And he loved to say that the UFC wanted him to be the champion.
He was fucking high. I don't know where he got that from. But, he's trying to sell fights, and it's totally understandable. But at the same time, like I said, man, I'm not a big talker. Last time I checked, the UFC, they when Sean saw me knock out Jesse Brock in Alaska, he was like, I want that guy because his talent and what he brings to mixed martial arts. He didn't, sign me because of my mouth or whatever.
So we know that they're going to be bringing in champions from around the world to fight on The Ultimate Fighter and ultimately get a chance at you. Are you familiar with any of these people? How much time do you spend, sort of perusing other organizations? Do you know what you're up against?
I don't, and I won't. I mean, I'll probably watch the show just to see the banter between Joseph and Cejudo. But I'm not the type of person that likes to sit there and watch somebody that I'm going to be fighting, because I just focus on what I'm going to be doing. And sometimes Matt's like, "Hey man, let's watch some tape." I'm like, "I don't want to watch any tape, man." I was like, I got the gist of it. I know what we need to do. We're just gonna go out there and do what we do best, and that's it. I was talking to some the other day, and they're like, "What was the game plan against him?" And I was like, there wasn't a game plan. I was like, I knew what he did well. I knew if he was to take me down, it'll be the inside trip. I knew he likes to stay in the guard. He doesn't like to pass guard, and he likes to paw. And when he paws, his hand comes down and drops. And he likes to paw and throw the left hand, the left hook, and the right hand. And I was like, essentially, that's what it is. And then we get into a fight. Things escalated, and that's how it happened.
You seem to really be embracing Twitch as a way to get in touch with your fight fans.
Yeah.
So, you're really on the forefront of that. Why is that bonding experience the right one for you?
Because I'm doing something that I enjoy. I started a new weigh-in show on Twitch. Make sure you get me, Chanman V. So make sure you I give all my predictions of UFC 199. You're gonna check the VODs. Make sure your predictions are right with mine. But I don't know. I just think it's fun. I've always loved playing video games, and I figured out a way to monetize it and interact with my fans on that platform. So it's fun. And then people come in here talking crap to me too, and I tell them straight up, like, what did somebody said? One dude came in here. They said, "Henry Cejudo's gonna whoop your ass," and I was like, "Ow, ouch, that hurts. Why would you say something like that? I've never done anything like that." Then when I beat Henry Cejudo, he came back and goes, "Dude, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Dude, no hard feelings. Like, it happens. You guys have your fans that you guys want to win, and there's something against you." And I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, I was talking to a guy, and he goes, "Dude, I can't wait for you and Joseph fighting. I just want you to know, when you and Joseph fight again, I'm in Joseph." And I was like, "Dude, that's totally fine. Doesn't matter to me."
So you're recently in Cabo, and I'm pretty sure you put up a picture with Frank Mir, but you missed out on catching up with Dana. So what?
He was out there?
Yeah, D-Dub was there. So play this out for me. Man, that dude looks like Frank Mir. Is that how it played out on the beach? How did it happen?
No, I was going to Mango Deck. I go to Mango Deck, and I was chilling out there. And then somebody goes, and the fans, the coworkers there at Mango Deck are huge UFC fans, and they're like, "Dude, hey, check out this man. I got this picture of this guy. It's Yoel Romero." He pulls out, he goes, "That's him, right?" I was like, "That's not fucking Yoel, dog." And he goes, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yoel does not have a full sleeve tattoo. He doesn't have full sleeve." He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "This guy said he was Yoel. He was telling everybody that. Now he's got my picture." And he goes, "I'm gonna buy you a shot." And then he got me a shot, and a couple shots later. And then next day I came back, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He goes, "Frank Mir's on it." And I was like, no, he pulled out a thing. He goes, "Do you know who this fighter is?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Frank Mir." And he goes, "He's over there." And I was like, "Is he?" And he was like, "Yeah." So fast forward, I went over there, hung out with Frank Mir. We got dinner that night. The night after that, drank some beer. He told me his jokes. Me and Frank Mir are close now.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are like the odd couple, the new odd couple.
Yeah, we're good friends. I will say, yeah, my wife and his wife get along. Me and him get along, and we like beer. I mean, maybe that. When your wives get along, you guys like beer. I mean, it's a good time.
How important was it for your wife to get along with his wife?
It's important. It's always important. She goes, I'm not persuaded by Frank Mir. I don't like you hanging out with him. I'm like, "Babe, I like him." It's always good. I mean, I think Frank Mir's wife. She's amazing. She's been around the sport for a long time with Frank Mir. My wife, we've been together since 10 years. So it's very hard to find wives that understand the process of fighting and being next to a fighter who goes up his ups and downs in the career. I have my ups and downs in my career, broken bones, and same as Frank Mir's wife. So she kind of understands it.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, right?
Thank you.
That's it?
Are we good?
Your mustache getting fucking strong, bro.
What are your general thoughts about Wilson Hayes? I mean, he's been working so hard. I see him in Alliance MMA all the time. He's sharp, he's fast, he's strong, he's very hungry. What are your thoughts about him?
Just another opponent. Just like Henry Cejudo was another opponent. Like I said, it's always funny. I saw the videos of Henry working out, and he was like, and his coach would hit with the ball, and I'm like, doesn't matter, dude. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like I said, man, it's another opponent. I'm sure Wilson Hayes is going to bring it, just like the last 8 of them. And, I'm already in the gym working out. I mean, I didn't even get a break from the last fight. went home. Matt and the UFC were negotiating about stuff, and then when they're like, "Hey, this is the choices you have," which I don't divulge to you guys, and I said, "Okay." And they're like, "Would you like to fight Wilson Hayes?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so we're getting ready for that. I took maybe a week off. When the gym started sparring, felt good and moving. Everything was clicking and it was good. And then went to Cabo, worked out in Cabo, came back home, started training. Yeah, I got drunk in Cabo, came back. Still, cardio was still there. Still training hard. Still putting people away in the gym. And then I'm out here. I'll go back home. I'll keep on working out. Like I said, it's just another fight.
All right, and that was your UFC 109 media scrums. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we're gonna get into some fight talk for this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that went on, a lot of stuff that happened that night at UFC 199. It was a big night, a lot of stuff, a lot of announcements. The first off, you had Diaz and McGregor being booked. The second fight being booked in August for 202, UFC 202. So that's a fight that I didn't believe that they were going to really follow through with. I thought they might abandon it and just let it go, just based on the dealings that they've had with both fighters recently. But it looks like they're going to book that fight.
Yeah, this is a fight that when it was first announced by the UFC, people weren't excited about it, especially it being the headliner for UFC 200.
Yeah.
But then all the drama came out. You had Conor McGregor, had that whole back and forth war with the UFC, him retiring, and it made that fight even bigger. I think the more the UFC didn't have that fight happen, the more the people wanted to see it. And I'll echo what Josh just said. I didn't think it was gonna happen either because of Nate Diaz and how much he wanted more money, and how the UFC brass didn't want to give him that much money. Obviously, that changed. Nate Diaz was there in attendance at UFC 109. He was right there next to Dana White. He looked really happy. So I'm assuming that he got a really sweet deal. But yeah, it'll be great to see those two guys finally fight and have Conor McGregor maybe finally go back to 145 and defend that belt.
Yeah. I'm glad that they booked the fight. It's an exciting fight. It's going to get a lot of buzz, a lot of pay-per-view buys, I'm sure, and it's going to be a fun fight to watch.
I think it's
also, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm also looking to just get past it.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be the biggest fight as far as pay-per-view buys. I think it's going to surpass UFC 100. I think it might even do 2 million buys.
Are you talking about 200 or the McGregor
the
Diaz?
McGregor Diaz fight would be bigger than UFC 100.
Okay.
I think the Diaz and Conor 2 will probably do 2 million pay-per-view buys just because of the anticipation of the two guys fighting. Conor McGregor being a superstar. When he did that tweet, man, it got retweeted more than Kobe Bryant's last game, and also it was breaking news on the NBA finals and the Stanley Cup finals, which is.
Do you think 200 is gonna top 100?
No.
You don't think it?
Maybe now with the new added matchups. You're right. I totally forgot it's gonna be 3 title fights and the return of Brock Lesnar, which you get to right now.
That's a big thing too.
Yeah, and having it's crazy having the former UFC heavyweight champion open the card against Charles Brown. That's to me is insane.
Yeah, I think right now the fact that they got Brock Lesnar, I think the only other person that would have also helped boost it up to was the return of GSP, which I thought would have been cool. But the fact that Brock Lesnar is coming back on a card that's already stacked, I think, and in the current state of MMA right now with the amount of buzz it has and the popularity it is right now, it's way bigger than it was in UFC 100. It's just, I think it's going to be a gigantic success in terms of pay-per-view. I think so, as long as it holds together, for sure.
Yeah, speaking of Brock, so obviously during the 199 broadcast on pay-per-view, the UFC announced the return of one Brock Lesnar, the former UFC heavyweight champion, and he'll be fighting a fan favorite in Mark Hunt. A guy that was, when the UFC purchased Pride, was going to be released by the UFC, and Mark Hunt wanted to fight out his contract. Mm-hmm. He went on a nice run, and seeing Mark Hunt, thinking of how he got almost released, so now he's in a fight, arguably one of the biggest superstars in MMA today. And Brock Lesnar is super huge. The fact that the UFC is placing him over a title fight is crazy, but Brock Lesnar. he draws the wrestling fans and the MMA fans. He's obviously still contracted with the WWE. Vince McMahon's gonna do a co-promotion. He'll be promoting UFC 200 on Raw and SmackDown, and so you can get all those wrestling fans tuning in for UFC 200. And it's gonna be a spectacle. It's gonna be an insane event. And yeah, Brock Lesnar is back in the UFC. I believe only for one fight though.
Yeah, and this is pretty interesting too. The fact that they're bringing him in, he's still signed with the WWE. This is like the first time that the UFC has really ever done
like a
co-promotion. And I think it's well known. At least it's been publicized already. The fact that they're the stipulations of his contract, right?
Right.
And so it's pretty surreal. It's pretty crazy. You never thought that would happen. They avoided doing that with Fedor and M1 Global. And the fact that they're going to do it with Brock and the WWE, and who knows what they have in store with the WWE, and the fact that the WWE is going to promote UFC 200 in their events, it's pretty crazy. And the fact that both of these entities have been at war and partners at the same time, and now they're full-fledged business partners in this through one guy. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think Dana White realizes the closeness of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, how they go hand in hand. Also, you know, WWE stands for World Wrestling Entertainment, and at the end of the day, this is entertainment for both companies.
Yeah.
And as far as Vince McMahon, those you guys who know McMahon or Vince knows that he doesn't want to do any. He's not wanting to do any co-promotion. But I think what Vince gets out of this is he might get a Ronda Rousey for WrestleMania this next year. It hasn't been confirmed, but I'm assuming that's why he's agreeing to do this.
Yeah.
So when he needs, because this is, I mean, let's be honest, UFC 200 is the UFC's WrestleMania. So when WrestleMania comes to town, I think McMahon's gonna get his MMA superstar to do his show as well.
Yeah, and Rousey most likely will be back around that time anyway, so it kind of fits with the return of Rousey and WrestleMania. That whole time is it just kind of plays perfectly. So I could see that happening, making a trade. You will give you Brock, you give us a Rousey type of thing. So yeah. And I mean, on a sad note, on a night that was so exciting and so fun, some of the bad news and sad news of the night was the fact that a person that, I mean, I guess we would love to call a colleague. I mean, we're lucky to even say that. And a friend, and someone that has been nice through us, even as fans. That was Eric Helwani. Had a difficult night on Saturday night when he broke the news of Lesnar returning, or at least in negotiations with the UFC, in a possible return. He was escorted out of the building at 199, and was pretty much banned for life by the UFC. He talked about it previously, and we saw his the MMA Hour just before this recording, and kind of laid it all out, the timeline of his dealings with the UFC and Fox and that night. And I mean, I could see, in my opinion, no one's been nicer, and James can attest to that, especially at 199. And he'll tell you more about that on in terms of how his dealings with Ariel. But Ariel's been the nicest person to the fans and to other media members, and he's the guy. He's the guy that we all look up to. He's a big reason of why we do this and why we had the courage to feel like we were able to do something like this. He's the guy. He's the guy that everybody knows, that everybody goes to and trusts, and to have him be, discredited like this, or to be, to be put down professionally like this, and it's just I think it's a travesty. It's a disgrace to the sport. I could see why the UFC would do something like that in terms of wanting to protect their promotion and to announce things when they want to announce it. But that's sports in a lot of ways to me. It's just the dealings with sports. NFL does it, has to deal with it. NBA has to deal with it. MLB has to deal with it. The media and the sports entities themselves have to deal with it. It's just that cat and mouse game that makes sports fun. And I think with the UFC, since it's a private company, they got to do what they want in the end of the day. And it just no one loves this sport more than Ariel. He lives and breathes this sport. He could cover anything else. He's so good. He could cover anything else, and he's so knowledgeable about other stuff. He could do whatever the heck he wants. I think we're lucky to have a guy like him in this sport. You know what I mean? And I wish him all the best. I hope this situation gets sorted out. I love the UFC just as much as Ariel, I'm sure, still does. But it's just I wish that whole situation gets sorted out in the end.
Yeah, for sure. And to echo, what Ariel has meant, for me personally, I mean, just like what Josh just said, we have this show because of Ariel. Many people point to Sure Dog as the pioneers of MMA podcasting, which is true. I mean, I look at Ariel as a hero to for me and for Josh. I mean, that guy is the reason why we have the show, and I told them personally, and I've been a fan of his since 2009. I mean, I've caught his show many times, and he was nice enough to give me prizes on his show, and backstage at the 199 when I came in here, representing the MMA Complex, and no one would give me the time of day. No one would speak to me. No one would want me to give me room to set up my stuff for the show. And Ariel, man, he not only let me take a spot, but he was talking to me and being really gracious with his time. And I have nothing bad to say about Ariel. He's been a gentleman, and to not only myself but other media members and other fighters, and he is our Bob Costas, to be honest, in the sport. He's a leader of the ship, and it's unfortunate to see him escorted. And I was there when it happened, and it's sad to even see his colleagues like Esther Lynn, who's in my opinion the best photographer we have, and her fiance Casey, to be escorted as well. Two people that had nothing to do with what Ariel was doing, but since they're part of his team, I think they got escorted as well. And those guys have nothing to do with it, and I hope that, and I'm gonna paraphrase what Ariel said. Cool hairs prevail. I can understand the UFC side and wanting to not only protect the brand but to protect the news that comes out of it. I think they want to be they control what comes out, and they want to have that control of what comes out in the news. So I just hope that everyone and that was involved on Saturday night's decision would cool down and think things through. But Ariel Helwani is he's always gonna be a hero to me, and I just hope that he gets his credentials back. And if he doesn't, he's still gonna be covering MMA, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, and I suggest everybody go to the MMA Hour, look at the latest episode. You'll see his special. It's just him talking to the fans and talking to all the people in the media and just whoever wants to listen. He lays it all out. I suggest you go catch it. MMA Hour. This is the latest episode. Just came out Monday today, so make sure you check that out. In my opinion, it's something that the media and the UFC they need to come to terms. MMA media is, I know it's small, it's new. It's not as established as all the other media outlets and other sports. It's something that I think the UFC is still able to control, but at some point, and I think it's at that point almost right now, to where it's too big to control. You can't control everything. You can control what's in your company, but the media is something else, and I think that it's just something that's going to need to be worked out, and something that's going to be fixed, and it might be by force or it might be through negotiation, but either way, it's got to happen.
For sure. And Ariel has a lot of supporters, both fans and media, that are on his side, which puts the UFC in a bad light already because of all that stuff. I just hope that they can have a format where, or at least lay out rules where they can or cannot do. Everything that Ariel did was because he felt what was right. It was never told that he couldn't do certain things, and I just hope that something gets settled as far as like what you can or cannot do, or some kind of like rule book, I guess. So we as media will know what to do when it comes to certain situations.
Yeah, and you want to be respectful of the promotion. You want to be ethical in a lot of ways, and no one's more by the book than Ariel. So there was nothing that he did wrong in terms of letting that information out about Brock. being possible negotiations. There's nothing wrong there on his part. It's just it's something that I think it's gonna need to be worked on hopefully soon, and hopefully both parties can come to terms, and we'll see the best in the business back to where he should be.
No, for sure. And on a lighter note of news, former UFC heavyweight Don Fry will be inducted during the WrestleMania of UFC 200. During the as we all know, the UFC has the Fan Expo and the Hall of Fame, and then the big night on fight. For the Hall of Fame ceremony is gonna be Don Fry. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, no one's more of a character than Don Fry. If you've seen him around, if you've seen him on TV, I think they should use that guy more often. His promos and his Don Fry picks were just hilarious. He's such a legend in the sport, and I'm glad he's getting recognized. This summer, UFC International Fight Week, they're gonna at the Expo, I believe they're gonna do the Hall of Fame, and Don Fry is one of the inductees into the Hall of Fame.
For sure, yeah, I'm very happy about it. He's a legend, an icon, and one that needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So yeah. I'm happy as well.
Yeah, and this weekend was RFA38, which was a fantastic event. That took place this past Friday night. It was headlined by Thiago Moraes versus Jamal Emmers, which was a great main event. You had Dana White recording an episode for Looking for a Fight. You had our friend Raymond Elizalde getting a win by TKO in his long way to return to the cage. You had Nick Barnes defeating Jose Diaz. You had Vinicius Zani defeating Joe Murphy. You had a great night of fights and a great crowd. It was such a fun event to be at. There's so many people. I mean, it was really exciting. It was really exciting.
Yeah, it was a who's who in mixed martial arts. Josh and I went in there to cover the fight, and we were really surprised in how many fans were there and how many celebrities were there. In attendance.
There was.
It was crazy. Yeah. I think the fact that Dana White was there to film added more
hype to the
event.
Yeah, you had the cast of Kingdom, which is kind of like an MMA based show. They had the cast there in attendance. It was a fun event, fun night, and we were able to get an interview with the champ, defending champ, Thiago Moraes, and so watch this.
So you just defended your title. How does it feel? How do you feel right now? How do you feel physically? Tell us.
I feel great. It was 5 rounds, was a war, and I feel great. Sore, all my body hurts, but I'm happy.
The whole fight was a very close fight.
Yeah.
Even leading up to the 5th round.
Yeah.
In between the 4th and 5th, the coach kind of encouraged you to push forward because I remember you in the 5th round just going for guns blazing.
Yeah.
Was that the advice that you want to give you coming to that 5th round?
Yeah, it was my corner. They were saying go forward, and I was ready to leave everything in the cage, to keep in my belt.
And this was a short notice opponent.
Yeah.
How did it feel going into defending your title against a new opponent on such short notice time?
Doesn't matter, I was ready, and I showed this tonight.
Yeah. And were you confident that you were winning the fight coming out of that 4th round into the 5th?
Yeah, was a TKO.
No, but were you confident coming into that last round?
Before the finish.
Before the finish. Did you think that you win that fight?
The fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the 5th round?
Yeah. I think I won the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, and I was ready to leave everything in the 5th round.
And how did he feel in the cage? Was there something that you weren't expecting that he did in the fight that you were able to, at some point defend or maybe attack in a different way that you weren't expecting from him?
He's a great fighter, great athlete, but I was ready. I trained at ATT and I trained at 011 MMA in Brazil, so I have the best training partners, and was nothing better than my partners.
As you know, UFC President Dan White was here in attendance, along with Matt Serra and Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
Knowing those guys were here, did that add extra pressure on your part to perform well?
I didn't let this affect me, you know. I was just ready for, was just focused on my fight, on my performance. I forgot about everything and just focused on my fight.
And what's next for you? Do you know maybe a next opponent for you coming up, or is it just you're gonna wait and see how you feel and what RFA brings you?
Let's wait and see what happens next. You know, I'm ready for the next level, and let's see what happens.
That fight was a hard fight for you. You know, like obviously you're sore and you kind of hurt. Are you ready to go back in there as soon as possible? You want to take some time off?
I'll take some time off. You know, enjoy a little bit my family, and I'll be right back training and improving.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to just plug in like your sponsors and maybe how the fans can find you on social media?
Yeah. Thiago Moises MMA on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Appreciate it.
All right, now is your RFA38 not media scrum, but RFA38 interview with the champ, Thiago. Yeah, I mean, after that interview, we spoke to Dana White, and then all that madness happened the next day. But yeah, I mean, want to thank the guys on RFA for letting us be there to credential it. To cover the event. It was awesome, and hopefully, Josh and I can go back and do some more in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And this coming weekend, you have a couple events. Yeah, CES MMA 36. That's in Rhode Island. That's on Access TV, so make sure you catch that. That's on the 10th. And then you also have Titan FC 39. That's headlined by Cavalcante and Healy. I'm sorry. That's also June 10th. That's in Florida, and that's only on UFC Fight Pass, so make sure you check that out. That's headlined by 3 welterweight titles. That's going to be a great night of fights. And so you have Access TV and you have Fight Pass. You can do whatever you want, record one, go back and watch it on Fight Pass after, whatever you want. But you have Diego Lima versus David Michod for the vacant welterweight title. At Titan FC, you had Andre Harrison versus Division Ribeiro for the featherweight title, and you have JC Cavalcante versus Pat Healy for the vacant lightweight title, and that's headlining Titan FC 39 this weekend on June 10th. So make sure you check that on UFC Fight Pass and CES MMA on Access TV. And so I want to thank you guys all for watching this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And make sure you follow me on Twitter, MMA Complex Josh. Go to the website, themmacomplex.com, to get everything. The MMA Complex, catch this episode there too. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe it, share it, like it, do whatever you can. Comment below if you have any comments, concerns, questions, whatever you want to do. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you for watching too.
And you can follow me on Twitter at the MMA Complex James, JAYMZ. Follow us on Instagram at the MMA Complex, and go ahead and like our Facebook page at the MMA Complex. And those of you guys who are listening on podcast form on iTunes, go ahead and give us a rate and a comment to help the show get noticed. If you have any questions or comments, you can either write your comments below or email us at the themmacomplex@gmail.com. So until then, enjoy the fights this coming weekend and enjoy your week.